Hey, so where are we going?
Going to the consultation room. Enter at your own risk. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video on Back Corner Media, bringing you a brand new show today, bridging, what do they call it? Generations. Generational gaps.
Generational gap.
That whole thing.
If you will.
If you will.
I think we are.
We are.
We
indeed.
did it.
We're doing it right now.
I did that.
Vocabulary.
I did half of that.
Elliot.
50%. Elliot.
I'm bringing you a brand new show called The Consultation Room, brought to you by your host, as always, Jaiman White, and bringing along
Me.
my beautiful sidekick,
Butcher Amadeus Roses, but you could call me Dad.
That's right.
That's what he calls me.
That's what I call him from time to time. I keep him around for stuff like that. Best father-son duo in the game, and Back Corner Media is the best site in the game anyway, so...
Consultation Room, freakiest room in the house.
You want to explain that name real quick, just
so
for the viewers?
The first time we looked at this house before we moved in, we walked around the back and there's these creepy double doors to what's basically a tool shed underneath our
But these
deck.
doors, it doesn't fit on a residential building.
No.
It's not right.
Dilapidated, ugly, and there's a sign above it, freaky, it says consultation room, and I'm, whoa. I don't know what went on in there, and I don't necessarily want to know if I want to be a part of it, but it has become an inside joke in the family, and it never fails. When you take somebody around back and they look at that, they immediately give you a look like,
wow,
what happens in there?
Well,
hey buddy, you don't want to know.
Right now we have our own cat farm going on in there, but
trade secret.
Yeah, but other than that,
it's a meowsing.
Other than that, enter at your own risk.
That's
but
right.
The purpose of the consultation room is we're breaking it up a little bit. We're breaking away rather from the hard news topics that I typically bring you in the MMA world, and we're bringing you the most interesting stories, storylines, career analysis, all that kind of stuff in the MMA world. My favorite sport in the world, and something he's been watching longer than I have.
Yeah, man. I remember the first UFC fights. The first couple times I was at my boy Gary Platt's house, and he's like, "Yo, I got these videos you got to see." And I was like, "What the fuck is this, dude?" It was like a 400-pound dude against like a 110-pound dude. It was crazy. The rules were there were no rules. You couldn't poke somebody in the eyes, and you couldn't bite somebody. You could punch them in the nuts. You could pull their hair. You could do all types of stuff. And weight classes didn't exist. Time limits didn't exist. And basically, the Gracies ruled the first. I mean, they ruled the whole roost. I mean, it was all, and it was set up by the Gracies too. It was basically set up to be a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu showcase. But as time evolved and things evolved, the sport evolved, rules came into play, and things changed. It is not the same sport that it was. It's a much more sophisticated sport.
It's a sport now. What back then, the late John McCain would famously call it human cockfighting, which is much more accurate. But today it is, of course, a sport, and it's an awesome sport.
I've never seen two dudes do that. For the record, I've not seen that, and I'm not paying for it either.
Not in the hallways for sure.
If I'm in Tijuana and I get a free pass to the donkey show, maybe I'm going because, hey, I'm there, but I'm not watching a cockfight.
No, too much for us.
Yeah.
We'll stick to the sophisticated.
Yeah.
Nothing more sophisticated than cage fighting.
Or us.
Joe Rogan likes to say. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
I mean, look at this kid's hair.
Beautiful.
I gave him those curls.
Right. He's got some more gray in his beard. I can't even grow a beard. So let's get into it. So the MMA community, for a long time, whatever happens surrounding Conor McGregor, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
He's a larger-than-life figure. He's brought more attention to the sport than probably anybody ever has.
Great talker.
Entertaining. Could put on a show in his day. Mystic Mac predicting knockouts in the second round and making it happen. His return to the sport in 2021, interesting. A rematch against Dustin Poirier at lightweight. was the main event. And you want to tell everybody how it went if they don't already know? You got knocked out.
But this is important because this is the subject of the day is what happens to a fighter after they get knocked out.
Right, and there's essentially two trains of thought. One, they'll get back up and they'll be good to go. Or
they're never the same.
Right.
The vast majority are never the same. There's a long list of people who are never the same. We have compiled a list of people who actually bounced back from it. I believe Dustin Poirier is on that list.
Dustin Poirier is on that list.
However, a lot of dudes, even outside of MMA, boxing, you name it, you're not the same dude after you get knocked out.
Right. I mean, it's the most devastating thing that can happen in combat sports.
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody wants to get knocked out.
Countless times you hear, this guy's got the strongest chin. He absorbs so much punishment, and then, boom, here comes Joe Blow out of nowhere.
Right.
Hits him the right way, the right time, and that dude is never the same. Number one on the list of dudes that were never the same.
Number one, Chuck, the Iceman Liddell.
Chuck Glassjaw Liddell. Chuck Liddell was the baddest dude on the planet.
Formerly Granite Chin Liddell.
Yeah, formerly, absolutely. I mean, Chuck Liddell is what got me back into MMA. When I first started watching MMA, like I said, initially the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu greatest show on earth was okay.
It was a circus, though. It was essentially a circus.
And it was, but I started watching, I got into the UFC again right around when the Fertitas brothers and Dana White took over. I saw, hey, all right, the Whites. That's not racist.
No.
Chuck Liddell was the man. Chuck Liddell was the dude with the ice, shorts on, just really hands of stone, putting people on their back. And very well kept secret. The man who knocked him out for the first time, not a secret, Rampage. They fought, and the American audience had no idea they fought because they fought over in Pride in Japan. Chuck went over there to kind of showcase himself, and the UFC was flexing muscles. They sent their thoroughbred over there, and Rampage whooped his ass in Japan. They threw in the towel. Chuck Liddell's crew threw in the towel in that fight. But, fast forward a little while, Chuck Liddell's the lightweight champion, and Chuck was on this rampage, if you will, where he was looking for people that had beat him. And he handled a couple of those. Tito Ortiz never beat him.
Well,
Randy Couture beat him.
They had their beef, though.
Yeah,
for sure.
They did have their beef. He whooped his ass. He whooped Randy Couture's ass after Randy had gotten him once. There's another dude, Jacare Souza, I think was his name. He put his lights out, and he keyed in on Rampage because he felt some sort of way about that, and Rampage knocked him the fuck out. I think it was the second round, and Chuck was never the same.
No, and to your point, Chuck was like the biggest star prior to the Conor McGregor era. Yeah. Cult classic.
That's all people talked about.
Yeah, throw an MMA guy in a movie, he's gonna either beat Chuck Liddell or look like Chuck Liddell. Yeah. He was the UFC.
He was the name.
Right. He was Conor at one point.
Yeah.
And
but
quieter.
Yeah.
More respectful. And Rampage, for an MMA fighter, respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. He whooped somebody's ass, and he didn't talk a lot of shit.
Yeah.
He went about his business sort of quietly, had a great takedown defense, and really just hands of stone. Like, you could tap somebody, he'd be like, that's a jab, and they'd be out, counting sheep.
Yeah.
But after Rampage, everybody
could knock him out.
Yeah, and everybody figured him out, too, because Chuck liked to lead with his chin.
Right, yeah. This was an era where MMA was still very new. The techniques weren't as advanced as they are now. Disciplines were still largely training with their own disciplines. Kickboxers with kickboxers, jiu-jitsu with jiu-jitsu. And a lot of it was, let's throw the toughest guy in there and see what they could do. And
BMFs.
Right. And
like me.
Like this guy.
Not me.
Oh, right.
Not to interrupt you, but he went on. He had a lackluster fight with the Brazilian roid head with the tattoos on his head. Vanderlei Silva. Which they were both. I mean, that fight they were both kind of scared to get hit from each other. So it was like. But I mean, after that, everybody.
They were past their prime.
Yeah.
Rashad Evans got him.
Ooh.
His last fight in the UFC, Rich Franklin was like, I don't want to be the guy that has to retire Chuck Liddell.
Rich Franklin knocked him out with a broken arm.
It was bad. So, and of course, we all saw the third fight he had with Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz knocked him out.
Gosh.
That's kind of like Tito Ortiz was dancing around like he was so vindicated. It was like breaking a broken wine glass. I mean, that's nothing to be proud of.
It was like if I went into any one of your houses and just pushed over your granddad. I mean, that's basically what it was.
Out of the rocker. Out of the rocker.
I mean, he was past his prime, and a lot of these guys are examples of people that hold on too long.
Yeah.
And I think our next guy, Rashad Evans, could be an example of that, surely. But it all started with someone named Lyoto Machida.
Lyoto Machida knocked Rashad Evans out. And Rashad Evans, you know, when we put him on the list, I was thinking about that too, because Rashad Evans was never the same. But he put on some fights. Rashad Evans was, at one point, the only dude that really put John Jones in any trouble. They fought a 5-round fight, but I remember at one point, Rashad Evans kicked John Jones in the side of the head, and Jones stumbled for a second, and there was a very small window of opportunity, and Rashad Evans missed it because he had lost his speed. He had lost that. And after that, he became... he switched weight classes. I don't know if he ever got knocked out again, but he was never the same fighter again.
Yeah, and I mean,
not the same.
No, in MMA, so much is about speed, and he was someone who relied on his just raw speed and athleticism.
And I loved Rashad Evans. I was the biggest Rashad Evans fan. Was it all that? I mean, he knocked Chuck Liddell out. That was, again, it was kind of scrambling eggs, but. He won the Tough Championship.
As a heavyweight.
He beat a dude who was immensely bigger than him and stayed with him and won that fight. I was a big Rashad Evans fan. I liked his charisma. I liked his fight against Rampage too. I
think that was all 30-27s on the judges' scorecard too.
Yeah,
so.
But that was Rashad Evans. Rampage Jackson was after he got knocked out, and that was his last hurrah. I think he had so much built up going in that fight. One of those two was going to have to kill the other one, for that. And it still went to decision.
Yeah,
he just wasn't the same fighter. So he got on that list. He is on the list because he was never the same. But he did not become shattered glass. He just was not the same. I think part of that is because he got knocked out once. And he was unwilling to engage in a way that would put him in a position to get knocked out again.
And his style also completely different from Chuck Liddell's.
Completely. Fast, dart in, dart out, bump.
Heavy grappler.
Pepper, boom. Who's next?
Moving down the list, if Conor McGregor is the biggest male star the UFC's ever seen, Ronda Rousey's probably the biggest female star.
Where Ronda Rousey's fine ass at?
She's probably the biggest female star the UFC's ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the first
not
UFC
the prettiest.
She gets punched in the face
for a living. She gets punched in the face for a living.
But
Misha Tate
also gets punched in the face.
Much prettier. Except for the nose. That nose has been broken more than once.
But, I mean, she was the first UFC women's champion, inaugural champion, after Dana said there will never be UFC female fighters. And whoever did it to her, I totally feel bad because someone convinced her one day that she could be an elite striker.
Yeah.
Not only that she could be an elite striker.
Her piece of shit coach who lucked out when she walked in the door.
But that she already was an elite striker. I mean, she was a heavy wrestler and a judo
master
in the Olympics.
Judo. Yeah.
Striking was not in her repertoire, as the French like to say. And an elite striker in Holly Holm, the kick heard around the world absolutely... lights out, and it was over from there.
Ronda Rousey was not an elite striker, but she could get punched in a motherfucker, man. And really, people before that fight, it was so foolish. Misha Tate mentioned her once already. I had a crush on Misha Tate, but I like a woman who can take a punch. I don't know. She had her in bad positions in more than one occasion, but for some reason insisted upon trying to toss her and take her to the ground. She was punching her, and Ronda Rousey was so uncomfortable with that. You could see it. And Holly Holm had no interest in taking her down.
No.
She separated the whole time, and that was the kick heard around the world, and she was never the same after that. What, did she fight twice? One more time? Two more times?
Whatever it was, it
Long
was not
enough
memorable.
just to get knocked the fuck out again.
Yeah. And, yeah.
Her marketability went downhill really quick.
There's
she
a reason she's in the WWE now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because her marketability, once she got knocked out once, like all those offers started coming in, and the WWE was like, we'll still take it. Movies? No. TV? No. WWE? Yeah, why not? We'll see where it goes. Put on a kilt and we'll fuck around for a minute.
Moving on. Probably another one of the biggest stars. There's a lot of great rising stars that have come through this list, and that I don't want to put these guys on, except for Luke Rockhold. Yeah. He's the only one I really want to.
Yeah.
But
see, believe, shut the fuck up.
But Anderson Silva,
love him.
Oh,
love him.
Can't dislike Anderson Silva. No. You could try.
I don't care if he did PDPs or STDs or whatever he did. And he never looked like it. He had a little pouch on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was unassuming. The spider. He looked like a spider, but he was the man. He was the man for longer than anybody else will probably ever be the man.
Yeah, it's definitely close between someone like him, John Jones, and Demetrius Johnson. As far as
stand John Jones.
Well, it's a good thing we don't have to talk about.
I wish somebody would knock John Jones out.
Francis, Stipe, maybe.
Yeah, being a heavyweight might change his world. But, I mean, that kind of guy, he walks around pretty big, I think, most of the time. Anyway, Anderson Silva.
Is Anderson Silva, who was famously knocked out by Chris Weidman, is that, first of all, going into that fight, was that an issue of just not preparing? And, I mean, he was obviously being cocky leading up to that shot that
it worked up until that point. Being cocky worked up until that point. It was, people say he was being cocky. I argue that Anderson Silva was great at baiting people into his trap.
Yep.
What he was doing, he was chumming the waters. He was bringing somebody in so he could catch him. And Chris Weidman got real lucky. He got real lucky. He was just in the right place at the right time. And, getting older, as I could tell you, is a gradual process. But one day you find small things that you can't do anymore. And Anderson Silva found out that he could no longer play that game and get away with it. And Chris Weidman just cleaned his clock. And never the same.
No, never the same. Went on, oh my gosh, I can't remember
the second time they fought.
Second time they fought.
He broke his leg.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
Not an incident of getting, being cocky and getting knocked out. It was just the hardest leg check I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But after that, affirmatively after that, it was over.
Over. Absolutely over.
Except for an instant classic with Michael Bisping.
Michael Bisping and him put on a greast fight. But still, both of those guys, in my opinion, were past their absolute pinnacle, past their best, their peak. Michael Bisping's peak, his decline from his peak was slower. Anderson Silva's was a drastic, which a lot of these guys are. They're at their peak 1 second, and it's a drastic decline because they're fighting the number 2, number 3. They're fighting the best guys in the world. Michael Bisping was fortunate enough that he bounced around in the rankings enough that he wasn't always fighting number 2, number 3. Like these guys, they get pushed right back into that arena, and hey, man, you're not the same.
No. Not the same.
That's why you're on the list. You're not the same.
That's why you're on this side of the column.
Yeah. For those of you who can't see, that's this side, not this side. This side.
But that side, it'll look different.
I'm the same because I've never been knocked out.
Right.
But I have been punched in the face on more than one occasion.
I've been slammed once or twice.
It sucks.
A couple more we could just speed through. Luke Rockhold, famously knocked out by Michael the Count Bisping at UFC 199 in his first title defense in the first round. And now he's just good for getting knocked out. Frank Mir, met the hand of once upon a time mixed martial artist Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
who was probably
Yeah.
on steroids, but
Brock Lesnar, Shane Carwin, Alistair Over. I think Alistair Overeem knocked him out too. A few people have knocked him out, and yeah, he was never the
yeah,
same.
no, nasty heavyweights.
And he, to his credit though, he did make Brock Lesnar look like an asshole when he tried to come into the UFC the first time with a leg lock, like with an ankle lock.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah,
That was great.
absolutely.
Stopped him in his tracks.
Forrest Griffin,
Knocked out.
someone who met the hands, the feet, the elbows of Anderson Silva,
The Spider.
and he's the only fighter I think maybe two or three occasions I've ever seen wave off a fight in the middle of an interaction. He basically just said no after like the second or third knockdown from Silva.
Yeah, and that's the only dude I've ever seen run out of the ring too. He fucking ran. He couldn't wait to get out of there. No more, please.
Let's talk about Joanna and Jacek and Thug Rose.
Thug Rose. Thug Rose.
Thug Rose may be the most reluctant champion of all time.
Yeah, she
just
didn't
not
wanna
her
be
thing.
there.
But put on two classic fights with Joanna and Jacek, who was the boogie woman to that point and was a great striker, elite striker.
A lot of title defenses.
Yep.
Really ran through a lot of people. Unassuming Rose Namajunas, especially the first fight, just put it on her fast and furious. And yeah, I don't know. Has she won since then?
I think she's won once or twice, and she's been in some really bad fights. She was in an instant classic against Zhang Wei Li.
Was that when she looked like a Halloween costume? Oh man, it was so bad. It was like something out of a horror movie.
But it was
she had a baby growing out of her head.
It was a closer fight than others were in the past for her, but
not the same.
Not the same. There's a great list of guys getting finished by Anderson Silva, despite him being on this list. Rich Franklin, ace.
And Rich Franklin was a bad dude for a minute too.
Yeah.
He was the math teacher, right? The math teacher came out of nowhere.
And again, he finished Chuck Liddell's career, so he wasn't done by any means, but he was not the same.
Not the same.
By any
And
means.
Silva put it on him twice.
Yeah.
And I think the second time was worse than the first time.
Mm-hmm. I do agree. Chris Lieben. Who is
Granite Chin, one of those guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the hardest guys to knock out. Could
just stand there and get punched and just look at you like, "Rrr."
He enjoyed it.
It's like he had the shit.
Yeah.
I gotta get this out.
Someone we put on with an asterisk next to his name because it was his last fight. Was Matt Hughes when he got knocked out by BJ Penn.
Yeah.
Now,
which time? Is it they fought?
They fought 3 times, I do believe.
BJ Penn knocked him out in like 5 seconds.
That was the last time they fought, I believe.
Yeah.
And there was different stuff surrounding Matt Hughes at that point in his career. And, I mean, infamously went on and was hit by a train in his truck and is now, like, learning to walk and talk again, which is absolutely devastating. So
you don't want to see that for anybody.
No. So I don't know if that has anything to do with his career being over. I'd have to look at the timeline again. But
Nebraska boy. I think he's from Nebraska, right?
A country boy can't survive.
Yeah. I liked Matt Hughes in that regard.
Now Matt Hughes is the dude. I think underrated.
Long time, baddest dude on the planet.
Yeah.
Like as far as MMA careers go, he had a long stretch there where he was a bad dude. But when you're not, you're not.
No, and it was just the end for him. And probably the most recent example, if not Conor McGregor, it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back after this knockout loss. Prediction?
Conor McGregor?
Yeah.
He's got too much money to bounce back. I mean, it's, there's something to be said, and this goes for really all sports. When you're dirt poor, and that's the only thing you have is that, it's amazing what you can achieve. But when you have that money, you can look at in all sports. When you have that money, it's easy to get lazy. It takes a true champion in any sport to get those riches and still show up every day and work as hard as you did before you had that money.
Yeah,
that's why the Steelers don't like giving people big money.
It's hard to wake up and go run in the morning when you're waking up in silk pajamas.
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah,
I think for a guy like him, I've seen in the past how obsessed he can be after a loss. Famously, after the first Nate Diaz loss should be 2 Nate Diaz losses.
And before he lost to him the second time.
Right. Conversation for another day. But he was absolutely obsessed with getting that W back, and he did pull it off. And
I think the UFC was obsessed with him getting that W back.
And it looks like they're obsessed with getting that W back now against Dustin Poirier, possibly for the lightweight title. I don't know. I certainly don't think he deserves it at this point.
Not after that. Not after that. No, I would. If it was anybody else, they'd have to start back at the beginning.
Yeah.
But Conor McGregor gets a free pass, unlike a lot of fighters, because he's Conor McGregor. He's going to sell a lot of tickets. The brass know what's good for business, and money's good for business. And if people are buying tickets, then put them in the big show.
Right. Yeah, money talks. And
that said, Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson, probably the most recent example after getting. He was on like a 12-fight win streak in the lightweight division.
Got lucky against Cowboy, though.
Yeah, I mean, that was a late hit for sure, and Cowboy was winning that fight. But
don't do that.
Lightweight over the past couple of years, that's the nastiest division to be in, and he's just ran through a murderous row of contenders, and he's put them all away in exciting fashion. After getting knocked out by Justin Gaethje, he just doesn't look the same. In his fight against Charles Oliveira,
nobody looks the same after Gaethje knocks him out, though. That's the most unassuming dude. He's like the nerd that, you knock the books out of his hand. I mean, that's what he looks like, but Justin Gaethje just puts it on people. He really does.
He really does, yeah. They call him the highlight for a reason.
Yeah.
And his last fight, something like that.
You get punched?
Not this time.
I'm so fast you didn't see it.
Right. His last fight he had against Charles Oliveira, I mean, he just looked like a shell of himself already after just one loss. And, I mean, it just wasn't good for him.
Not the same.
People don't want to fight him just because it doesn't mean the same anymore. Habib has famously said, Tony's way past his prime. There'd be no point in me fighting him at this point if he were to come back.
But he was a bad dude.
He was a bad dude.
He was a bad dude for a minute.
And that's the thing about all these people on this list. Like, win, lose, or draw. I mean, they put on a show every time. And a lot of these people are legends and Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers for sure. But
to this day, if Chuck Liddell wanted to fight me, I'd be 3 blocks away before he got the sentence out. Nope.
Be over.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
If you blow on him, he might fall over.
I'm not getting that close. But what's next?
Yeah, well, probably more impressive is what happens after you get knocked out and you do get back on that train and you do come back victoriously. You do conceive and you do believe and you do achieve.
Yeah.
And like we said, the most famous example these days is Dustin Poirier.
Dustin Poirier, who just knocked somebody out and maybe put an end to their reign. Although, I mean, I agree with you on a lot of things, but I still think Conor McGregor is the greatest hype machine of all time. And to his credit, he did it. He did that. I mean, he was charismatic, and he really made people believe that he was something that maybe at the end of the day he wasn't.
Maybe. I can honestly say that I'm an MMA fan because of Conor McGregor, because of everything that goes along with him. He soured that a little bit for me after all the incidents he's been in, and the performances haven't lived up. And I think a lot of that's not his inactivity. But when he was coming up, I mean, he was
a bad dude.
He was just murking fools.
Hey, man. Being poor and hungry will make a man out of a lot of boys.
Still lost to Nate Diaz twice.
Still like that. I'm going to my groove saying that. But no, Dustin Poirier absolutely did get knocked out, and he has absolutely gone on to have a prolific career. And I will argue for everybody on this list who have succeeded after a knockout, it's because it wasn't a mathematical formula that was exposed. Maybe more times than not, the guys on this side of the list, it was luck. The other guy got lucky. I think that people on this side of the list, a lot of them were just a mathematical formula that once exposed, the entire fighting world saw it, and it became so clear. Like if you have a really hard algebra problem, and the teacher shows it too, and you're like, huh, now I get it. I think that's the case with a lot of the guys on the ladder list. But with Dustin Poirier and the people that will follow him, I think their opponent who knocked him out, it was luck.
And I think if you look at Dustin Poirier specifically, I even forgot about this because he has a whole nother lifetime and career at featherweight, and he got a short notice fight to go up against Cub Swanson.
Bad dude.
Certified bomb dropper.
Bad dude. Great tattoos too.
Everywhere.
SoCal. Yeah.
And
not SoCo. I used to drink that.
SoCal. And but he came in short notice. He was cutting down to 145, which he said has in the past was horrendous for him. And he doesn't even remember the weigh-ins, barely remembers any of the fight. And I think that has to take
and most people don't remember him losing that fight either, because that's how long ago it was.
And Cub Swanson, as much as I love him, he's never been on the level that Dustin Poirier has achieved to this point in his career.
Achieved, no, but he was a bad dude for a minute. And he was definitely top 3, top 4 often and throughout a large part of his career. I mean, you have to give him credit for that.
No, one of the best gatekeepers of all time.
Gatekeeper.
As much as I hate to say it, but
I like that though. That's, you know what? I think there's a lot of dudes that would love to be called a gatekeeper.
It's better.
Butch the Gatekeeper White.
It's better than being at the bottom of the barrel, I suppose. But it's also like I'm never gonna.
I cracked number 10 against that guy.
Yeah,
I'm in the top 10.
That's all. But he's never gonna achieve gold.
Nah,
but
bronze,
maybe
silver
on a good night. That was a silver victory over Dustin Poirier.
Absolutely.
But now Dustin Poirier is, I mean, in a lot of people's opinions, the uncrowned lightweight champion. He only has 2 losses in that division, I do believe, and it was against one of them. Most recently was against Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's since gone on to win 2 fights. One against Dan Hooker, who's an extremely dangerous striker in that division.
Dan the prostitute hooker.
Well, that's what they call him. Somewhere, maybe.
In the consultation room.
Enter at your own risk, ladies and gentlemen. And he just beat Conor McGregor. And before that, I mean, it went on absolute tear in the division. One of the
hey, if you get to fight Khabib, you beat somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody loses to Khabib, but you got to beat somebody to get there, to get to that dance.
No doubt. Yeah, one of the longest careers, too, before realizing a title shot. And once he finally got it against Khabib, came up short, but so did everybody else. So
everybody.
No shame in that. He will be an undisputed champion at some point, I do believe.
Next up,
current heavyweight champion of the world,
Stipe Miocic. Ohio boy. OH.
Ohio.
I hate saying it. I'm from Pittsburgh.
He's a tri-state guy. He's also a hero.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Even gooder dude.
Gooder?
Daddest man on the planet. Daniel Cormier slept him.
Yeah. And then got slept. Yes, he did.
Stipe went on to his last 3 fights were against Daniel Cormier. Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that. He's one of the only people who's ever fought the same opponent 3 times in a row. And both times...
Who's a bad dude?
Oh, yeah. No, Daniel Cormier will forever be the second best light heavyweight and the second best heavyweight in the UFC.
Hey, man. Number 2. That means you're the shit.
Can't argue with that.
Can't argue it.
And since then, I mean, Stipe's been great. I mean, this is his second heavyweight title reign. It looks like he's not relinquishing the belt, maybe to Francis Ngannou, but I don't think that either. Calm of the Death Star Worthy, who I interviewed, predicts a Francis victory. But, you know, I
not going to happen.
Got to go with Stipe on that one. And he's already a guy who definitely looks like he gets punched in the face for a living. And it sounds like it, too. It seems unaffected.
Yeah.
So, I
came out the womb.
Yeah.
The doctor punched him in the face.
I see nothing but greatness for him. Another heavyweight, Cain Velasquez. One of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. Got knocked out by Junior Dos Santos.
Yeah. Lucky. That was not that's a perfect example of what I was saying. That was not a formulaic thing. Junior Dos Santos went to war with him the other 2 fights that they had, but absolutely got lucky that first fight. It clipped the back of his head like when he was ducking, and just fortunate for Junior Dos Santos, who's a great fighter.
Yeah.
And probably should have been on that list also, because he's gotten good at getting knocked out.
Right, absolutely. Another guy, Michael the Count Bisping.
Loves him.
I
like him too.
He's the freaking man. He's the Count. He conceives, he believes, he achieves, and he does his business. But,
all on account of the one eye.
I mean, how much could you do with one eye?
Not that much.
Not that much. Won a world title with one eye, and beat the greatest of all time, Anderson Silva, and avenged this loss.
In a very peculiar fight. That kudos to him, because he was literally out. He got saved by the bell.
He was not out.
He was saved by the bell. He was, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter, because he came back in the next round and the following rounds and went to war with him, and absolutely put on a clinic of how to come back in a fight. Hats off to Michael Bisping, who really. Dan Henderson, right? Dan Henderson was a first. Woo! Right. That was a knockout.
And that knockout loss, I mean, we're going to be talking about the Conor one for a long time, and there's a lot of knockouts that we could talk about.
For days.
This was like the first one that was not just...
he was asleep before he hit the ground.
Yeah, this was one that wasn't just left to the MMA community. This was on SportsCenter.
Yeah.
This was on ESPN.
Yeah.
This was on... the infancy of social media. I mean, this is one that has circulated time and time again.
Because a lot of people got mad because Henderson hit him again after he was knocked out on the canvas. But
unfortunately, that's the game you have to play, though.
Yeah, I mean it's the damage was already done. He was counting sheep already.
Yeah, no, the damage was already done. But to come back from that, I mean,
and to fight him again.
Yeah, and to fight him again and beat him.
Yeah,
and he was knocked down. Oh my gosh, 3 times I think in that second fight, and but successfully defended his middleweight title. So kudos to him. Randy Couture.
What do they call him? Not Iron Man.
The Natural.
No, Captain America.
Captain America.
Absolutely deserves it. Absolutely deserves it, because Randy Couture did get knocked out by Chuck Liddell.
Yep.
Still went on to be heavyweight champion.
Yeah, heavyweight and light heavyweight champion.
Before
Twice.
Brock Lesnar beat him. Just an incredible career, and really just nothing ever phased him. I think the only thing that phased Randy Couture was his relationship with Dana White.
Right. Not, if there was a list of fighters that have an issue with Dana White,
That's a long list. We don't have time for that.
We do not have time for that. Next time, maybe.
It's a 3-part series, lad.
We'll talk about your guy. You love Ruthless Robbie Lawler.
I loved watching Robbie Lawler fight. He was amazing. He left nothing behind. He put it all on the line every single time. It just unabashed, careless. I mean, I wouldn't say careless,
he was
but
ruthless.
He was in it to win it at all times, and he could take a punch. He could give a punch. You could cut him. I mean, what was a fight he had? That dude's face would never be the same.
Rory McDonald.
Oh, Rory McDonald looked like something out of a bad movie when he got. I mean, he had this. He eventually quit because his nose was coming out of the back of his head. It was so bad. It was so bad. But Robbie Lawler suffered knockout and still went on to be a bad dude.
Yeah, and this was someone who had 2 stints in the UFC, and that initial knockout was
Bald Robbie and not Bald Robbie, right?
Robbie with hair got knocked out by a really young and, I mean, absolutely crazy Nick Diaz.
Yeah. Stock just slapped him.
That's just the way it goes. Yeah. And, but, I mean, again, a brutal knockout that was replayed not just for MMA fans, but sports fans in general.
Yeah.
And last, but certainly not least, probably the most famous example, actually. Because when we talk about huge upsets and huge knockouts...
And luck.
Some luck.
It was luck.
Well, all right, it was luck.
I think it's another one that clipped the back of the head.
Yeah. And Matt Serra's upset over George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that, George St. Pierre had maybe the best career we've ever seen.
Yeah. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. There was no formula that was discovered. It was hats off to Matt Serra. He belonged in that ring with him.
Yep.
He was in the right place at the right time. He got fortunate with that blow. However, GSP went on. Not only did he whoop his ass, he whooped everybody's ass after that. I don't think he's lost since then.
No, avenged both his career losses, once against Matt Hughes and Matt Serra, respectively, and then went on, I believe, a 9-fight title defense at welterweight after regaining the welterweight title off of Matt Serra. Beat guys like Josh Koscheck, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz. The list goes on.
Who's the dude with the beard? And he was balding. He had black hair.
Johnny Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks, because he fought him twice, right?
Fought him once.
He fought him once, and a lot of people thought Johnny Hendricks won that fight. However, GSP got that decision, and I think he fought one more time after that, defended.
He went on to retire after that Johnny Hendricks fight, and unfortunately captured, not unfortunately, but unfortunately for some people, namely myself, captured a second UFC title at 185 against the Count.
Michael the Count Bisping. It was ripe for the picking, though. It was really...
he had it coming after.
Yeah. I mean, GSP knew exactly what he had to do to win that fight. He did exactly what he had to do to win that fight. And I'm a big Michael Bisping fan, but he did... And then he stepped away again. That's GSP's not anybody's show pony. He does what he wants to do. He gets in, he gets out, and then he...
Yeah, maybe a dark horse for someone who doesn't have a great relationship with Dana, because I know Dana was steaming after he beat Johnny Hendricks controversially, and then didn't even give Johnny Hendricks the chance to fight him again, and then leaving the...
Stole money from the boss. That's what he did.
That's absolutely what he did.
Stole money from the boss. And you cannot steal money from the boss, and the boss doesn't get upset.
No, and I just heard recently that part of his contract when he came up to 185 is if he beats Mike, he has to fight Robert Whittaker. He never lived up to those expectations as well.
Not a company man.
He did what he had to do, but he did it for a long time. I mean...
But he... Not a company man.
No. Like you said, he did what he had to do, and he recognized that. And yeah, I mean...
The GSP's in it for GSP.
But,
and I don't know, maybe he's got money. He's got enough. He must have enough. But more importantly than money, he's got his brain. He's got his brain cells, you know what I mean? Because he's only suffered that one knockout, and really was a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, he got punched in the head a lot of times, but...
Yeah. Great jab. Probably one of the best jabs in MMA, I think. Utilized a great jab. Won fights like that, too.
Yeah, at the time when the jab didn't have a home in MMA, he really made it almost a signature move. Yeah. Which is kind of weird to say. You don't say that about a jab a lot of times.
But he utilized the jab well. He knew how to score. He knew how to steal rounds that way. And he really kept himself out of a lot of danger with that. And, to his credit, he's going to probably live a long... luxurious life. I'm sure he's got enough money
up there in Canada.
Yeah, I don't see GSP driving around Ferraris. You know what I mean? He seems like he's got a little more sense in that. Maybe a Ford Explorer.
Yeah, maybe a Land Rover. Maybe he's doing it bougie, like he lives up in the hills or something, and he needs the.
That's right. It is
extra,
Canada.
Yeah, he needs the 4x4 power.
Yeah, I got the fat tires.
I was not impressed by your Prius.
Are you intoxicated?
Yeah, duh. Vegas. So just quickly to wrap it up, if you had to pick someone from each list, what is the worst example of someone who did not recover and the best example of someone who did recover?
The best example of someone who did recover, I'm going to go back to GSP. I think Dustin Poirier is a close second because he has had an entire career after that, but GSP just went on to dominate that weight class for a very long time. And again, I just think it was kind of more luck than anything else. What do you think?
I mean, most impressive for me, I mean, I gotta go with my boy. I gotta go with Bisping. And I mean, that's the most devastating knockout I've ever seen. Not only the initial shot, but
it wasn't luck.
It wasn't luck. That was absolutely part of Hendo's
That was
game.
on the button.
But yeah, susceptible to the straight right in his career.
Yeah.
But the initial shot and then the shot after, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Doesn't even remember
That's
that fight.
That's a good argument. That's a solid argument.
And,
yeah. He doesn't remember that fight. He doesn't remember that week.
Oh, my gosh. And like I said, I mean, probably more non-MMA fans have seen that knockout than any other knockout ever.
Probably.
That one will get replayed forever. It's even Dan Anderson's logo, I believe.
Yeah.
It's like the NBA, like red, white, and blue, and it's just the silhouette of him jumping on them. So, I mean...
Well, what about the other side of the list?
I mean, most devastating, I like watching Luke Rockhold get knocked out. So, but... I mean, Chuck Liddell was someone who was not supposed to be...
No.
He was supposed to be impenetrable.
Yeah. Ooh. Broke that out of nowhere.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he was in a stoner movie.
Right. I like to think of myself as impenetrable. For a whole different list of reasons. But Chuck is definitely in that category for sure.
And you know what does it for me?
You cannot leave Ronda Rousey out of that conversation, though, because she was supposed to, I mean, she was everybody's darling. And the UFC pumped everybody, the entire world. I mean, from McDonald's to the UFC to, like, you know, Mickey Mouse, everybody thought Ronda Rousey could never be beaten. She was just the greatest thing in the world.
Joe Rogan cried on his podcast talking to her because I'm witnessing history right now.
And Holly Holm just kicked her teeth right down her asshole. And after that, Amanda Nunes made very short work of her. And that was it, right? That was it.
Yeah. It's never been the same. Absolutely. Yeah. And getting knocked out by the preacher's daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool
Who
is that?
has not beat anybody since then? Oh, she beat that Beth Cochea or whatever it is.
Whatever her name is.
Probably
a dude.
Yeah. Just because she pees standing up does not make her a dude.
Hey.
The penis does, though.
When you have that much muscle, it's hard to squat.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
just ask what's her face? Cyborg.
Yeah. Definitely on steroids. I saw her at the MMA awards, and she looked like Vanderlei Silva in a dress. I don't agree with that joke, but
it is funny.
But it is accurate. It is accurate. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. This has been the inaugural, you can call it inaugural, right?
I mean, what else are you going to call it?
Inaugural debut, season premiere, series premiere, really, of the Consultation Room. Enter at your own risk, where you can get... Come on in. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's warm inside.
Yeah, the water's fine.
Yeah.
Come on in.
And,
no. Take your chunks off.
The best father-son duo in the land, and the best... site in the land, Back Corner Media. As always, I'm Jaiman White, joined by, I don't get to say this all the time, my co-host, Butcher Amadeus Roses, a.k.a. The Dad.
You can call me Dad.
Now signing off. Peace. Thanks for watching. We out.